Dennis, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having
Thanks
me.
for coming on,
This is
Ed.
awesome.
Man, I'm real excited about this podcast just because for me this is a full circle moment. Y'all keeping up with us, Kane and I met in the FAME program being FAME scholars, but what you wouldn't know is that Dennis is one of our FAME OGs.
My man.
A man that's just kind of grounded in excellence
man.
from his time at Shady Side Academy, whether that be athletically on the football field or academically. He transpired that excellence to earning a Division I scholarship, playing football at Pitt. Beyond that, he's been involved in the financial sector, working at big-name financial institutions, and now kind of striking it out on his own.
Sure thing.
But I'll kind of let it go to you, Dennis.
Yeah.
Just give us a little bit about your journey up to this point.
Full circle moment for me too, man. It's always a blessing to be a part of something like this with you guys out there hustling and doing something for yourself. So I really commend you guys for starting a podcast and a brand, and I can feel what the brand is about, and I'm happy to be associated with it, man. But I'm doing well, man. Life has been a journey. Like you said, I guess I'll start from where I'm at now and kind of go back. I'm in the family business now. It's called Briggs Transportation. We actually started in this neighborhood, used some of the same space that you guys used. We have about 50 drivers, 80 vehicles. It's me, my dad, and my mom as the main managers, and then we have contracts with the city and with some of the parochial schools around the city. So that was an endeavor that my dad started about 4 years ago. He started with a party bus. He was a driver for a long time, but wanted to get on the other side of the equation and start his own business, just like you guys are doing. He started with one vehicle. It was a party bus, and he was doing trips just with that one vehicle, figuring out his pricing and things of that nature. And that was going okay. But then he got the opportunity to do a basketball team. So small basketball team, it was 6 or 7 kids. And that went well. And so the school started to ask him, if he could do more. And at that point, I was still at PNC. And I was at a point in my career about 3 years in where I was transitioning to a higher level, new responsibilities. And I was looking at the scope of, what I wanted to do. Kind of similar to you guys, I always had entrepreneurship in the back of my mind. And so I was looking at, what opportunities that I have. A couple of opportunities were outside of the bank. You just keep your eyes open for, what's there and what's available. But this thing that my dad was doing, started off as something where I was just kind of helping him a little bit here and there. And then when the request for more students came, it became a very serious lot of activity. And so at that point, I decided to forego the other opportunities I was looking at and join my dad in the transportation business. And I thought that was really, really unique because family business doesn't happen all the time. But I saw my dad was doing some really good things, and I was actually really proud of him for finding a niche that really fit him. And I saw that, the skill sets that I had could really complement that. And so we got started. When we started, I want to say 2 years ago, we had, it went from about 5 to 12. We had about 12 students when we first started. At the end of that year, we were in the 40s in terms of students. And so it was crazy growth that year. We bought a office space, bought a ton of vehicles as the requests continued to come. And then the second year was similar growth. We started with about 30, ended the year. We were actually closer to 60, but that kind of goes up and down because there's a lot of hiring and things of that nature in that business. But it's been a really, really cool journey, man. Just being on this side of entrepreneurship, definitely a whole different skill set that is utilized, versus being at the bank. But I'm just really thankful for the opportunity, man, because it's business, it's my community, it's our family. So all of those things are things that are really important to me. And then my family's growing, man. I have a 3-year-old daughter. Me and my wife have been married for 7 years. And we have one on the way, have a son on the way. He'll be here. Thank you, brother. Yeah. He'll be here in October. So it's been a crazy period of growth and change. But I'm really focused right now just on doubling down on, my assignment. I just feel like I'm in a place where the responsibilities I have, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I don't want to, how do you say, I don't want to get sidetracked. I don't want to get distracted, by all of the opportunities that are out there. I feel like at a certain point you have to kind of plant your feet and go all in. And I feel like I'm getting to that point. So it's a really exciting time, man. But you guys in Fame, that was an awesome, part of my journey, man, because I just got used to being around people who are really serious about their education, and it was just so much of a plus for it to be young black people too, that we're serious about their education, and that was something that you get used to. It's something that you stay. Yeah. It's something you stay close to, and here we are, man, just trying to do some things together. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I kind of love what you said about, like, staying close. Like, I remember one of the things they used to tell us at Fame is, like, you have, like, a family.
Yeah.
And I recall being younger and thinking, like, I'm only with these people because I have to be with them, Like, it's not, like, this isn't my family. Like, what are you talking about? But, I feel like moments like this really speak to, and even, like, with Loco and our journey, still being connected with those individuals from when we were really kids.
Yeah.
And being able, see people grow, blossom, flourish, and, see what they're doing now.
Yeah.
I always kind of remember Dennis is an extremely, extremely humble guy.
Thanks,
he doesn't like to talk a lot about a lot of his accolades.
Sure.
Both, one, being able to play Division I football at Pitt.
Yeah.
That was, I know there's probably not a ton of D1 products that come out of Shady Side. And then
Sure.
super, super bright brother. If I recall, you got into Yale, and I was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There's so much talent around you, and so being in places like Fame and, being able to get inspired by folks that look just like you, and it's like, well, if he could do it, we ride the same bus, go to the same events, do the same things. Why can't I?
That means a lot to me, man, for you to say that, because when you're going, especially being young and you're just, working and going through these programs, you don't think about how you might be impacting other people. So I really appreciate you saying that, Xavier. I have a lot of respect for what you guys are doing right now, but it does mean something to me to be somebody who other people, look up to. I think that's a responsibility. And yeah, man, I even I didn't even really talk about the Pitt part of my journey. I don't know why, it just kind of slipped my mind, but I think I've just been so laser focused on where I'm at right now that a lot of the things, not that I forget about them, but it's just like sometimes I just don't like to relish in the past too much, because I feel like you really have to think about where you're at right now. Like, you guys are in career space now, and you're starting a business now, and you can't relish on all of the, like you said, you mentioned accolades. I just find that a lot of times people will relish on the accolades of the past, which is great. It's great to accomplish things, but I'm all about being really focused on the now, man.
Absolutely.
Because now is what's important. But Pitt was an amazing part of my journey as well. Playing Division I sports taught me a lot, especially about business and family, man. To be frank, Pitt was both amazing and very difficult. Because the one thing you can't forget about college football is that it's a business at the end of the day, and it's a performance-based business. And so when you're performing well, things are going well. When you're not performing well, things are not necessarily going well all the time. And that's okay, because that's how the world is. In business, you have to perform. If you're not performing, you're not going to eat, and that's just a real part of business. But the thing about family is that family is unconditional. Family is not about performance. Family, at the end of the day, is not always about performance. Even though, you have to perform academically to a certain extent. If you mess up, or if you get, something doesn't go right, there will still be people there to back you up. And so a lot of what I learned in college football was all about coming in, keeping my head down, figuring out what my place was in that economy. And like I said, focusing and doubling down on that. I did feel like I was a good player, but I think the most important part of my time at Pitt was about my leadership development and just how I related to my teammates and to my friends and who I was to them. Because there were times in my journey where I wasn't necessarily performing well, so I wasn't the top guy on the totem pole from a playing standpoint. But I still had to find a purpose for why I was coming to work every day. And I found that in how I was relating to my teammates, how I showed up for them, how I carried myself every day, and how I supported them in the moments where they weren't on top of the mountain. all you see, in social media and on the news is those who are either at the top of the mountain or those who just messed up real bad, and just the crazy extremes. But there are a lot of people in the middle who are just trying to figure it out. They're just trying to figure out, how do I do this day-to-day thing consistently? And I feel like that was my specialty, was walking alongside those guys, and really being there for them in the minutia of the day-to-day, because I feel like that's where you really find out who you are, is in that consistency and showing up every day and just trying to do your best no matter what the circumstances are, no matter if it's season's going great, if you're headed to the ACC championship, or if season isn't still going great. You still got to find a way to show up to work every day, and find a reason for being there, and find a way to motivate yourself. And I love walking with guys through those times, because that's life to me. That's part of fatherhood. That's a part of being a husband and raising a family. Is just like, hey, not everything's not amazing right now, but hey, let's attack the day. Let's do what's right in front of us, and let's try to do our best at it. So,
that's really important, because I've been reading this book called Grit, and it was talking about like the delay of gratification, and just like working towards something every day, and like only worrying about what you can control. Yeah. And that story, you look worried about like you didn't worry about your talent, but you worry about what you could show up and have that effect. And like a lot of successful people I've been reading, even when it was hard, like through their perseverance and the consistency, as you said, it helped them bring them through.
Absolutely.
And it helps you bring that motivational back.
Absolutely.
So gotta say, like, what do you say, like, some core principles that you think you developed through those times? We're like, oh yeah, well, these like you constantly think back on that help you get through those hard times, especially because maybe like your perspective versus when you were younger and versus now, because we have like a lot of younger audience that watches our podcast as well.
Wow, great question, Brother Kanan. I try to think about life from a top-down perspective, and that's not necessarily something that I did when I was younger. I think when I was younger, I thought bottom up. Bottom up meaning, what can I accomplish so that I can make life meaningful, right? And nowadays I think about, why is life meaningful already, and therefore how should I respond, or how should I act because of that? A lot of that has to do with my faith. That's the number one thing. Is life is meaningful because in my belief that God made it meaningful, and God put me here for a purpose, and that purpose has a lot to do with the people that are around me. And so because of that, because I know that that's already true, I try to act from that. And so there aren't as many things that I have to figure out today as I thought there were when I was younger. When I was younger, I thought it was all about, all right, what are my goals? What do I have to accomplish? What do I got to do to make it happen? To make life as meaningful as it can be, or as it should be. Yeah. But nowadays, life is already meaningful, man, because I'm blessed to be here. Man, I have a great wife, man. I have kids on the way, man. I have a great community that I'm a part of. I already have a lot of things to do. So being that I've been blessed with a lot of responsibility and things to do, let me just focus on the next thing that's in front of me and do that as best as I can. And from that, a lot of things just end up lining up, So that's one principle, man. I'm really about the day-to-day. I'm still about setting goals and things of that nature, man. But, man, I just think that how you utilize your day is so very important, And, this is a little bit of an aside, but I've become much more family-oriented and thinking about, family as the main economy, as opposed to thinking about business as the main economy. And I know that's like maybe a little bit of an off idea, but, I just look at the Bible. I go back and I look at, I probably won't take you guys on a tangent too much, but but man, I think about, Abraham, and I think about some of the Old Testament folks in the Old Testament, and just how, in their economy, I don't know if you guys remember this story where Abraham and his brother Lot, they were traveling, and they had so many household servants and household workers that they couldn't even stay in the same land together. They had to break apart. Yeah. And so their economy, their whole work economy, was based on their household and their families, which I think is just a really interesting concept. So when you think about business, when you think about ministry, when you think about accomplishing things. It was all through the filter of what was going on in a household. Now that has a lot of, faith undertones and a lot of things like that. But I think about that now because you guys talk about brand and ownership and having something that is yours. I think about it the same way, but I interpret that from a family perspective. And, this is already my family. So when I go to work, am I going to work to build something for myself and, kind of just have something over here and then my family's over here? Or am I going to work to build something that my whole family can benefit from and maybe they can be a part of it, moving forward? So a lot of the decisions that I make now in the ways that I think are kind of from that lens. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But that was definitely one of the reasons why I ended up leaving PNC, to be frank. A lot of people advocate, hey, don't do family business because family is tough. Agreed. And I have a lot of proof of that. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to take a shot, to have equity and stake in what you're doing. And even if it takes a little longer, if it's a little bit harder, I just believe that it's worth it, So principles, definitely thinking from the top down for sure, thinking about family first.
I wanted to ask, you spoke a lot about how back when you were playing football at Pitt, whether if it wasn't, necessarily on the field contributions, but leadership contributions, dealing with teammates, how, I guess, has that leadership transition from teammates who are probably typically people around your age, same generation, same thought processes and things like that, to applying that within a family capacity, when you have, like you said, you work with your parents, that's an older generation, or even just, the employees and things like that.
Yeah.
What are kind of some of the similarities or transferable similarities and differences, honestly, from, leading teammates in an athletic capacity versus, family within a business capacity?
Personalities, man. There's you play. Did you guys play sports?
Yeah, we play sports.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what you guys did, but you have. I mean, it's really like for men, okay. Men get sports, like we get sports. Like a guy might not know how to do a lot of things, but if you tell a guy like, hey, you got to coach up your son's baseball team, even if he doesn't know sports,
he's gonna figure it out.
Yeah, he's gonna kind of figure out like, okay, I gotta like be there, and I gotta kind of like, hey, like, look him in the eye and like talk to him, and like there's a goal, like we gotta accomplish something. That is a great way to think about family, but we don't think about it that way, as men. I think that there's just a lot of confusion on what is our role to the people that are closest to us, And I think it's sad because I think we have a great opportunity to utilize a lot of our God-given gifts in a very tangible way if we can think about, how we were designed. It's a good thing that we were designed to know how to be a part of a sports team and how to coach. And so what that looked like for me was submitting to authority. All right, I didn't always like what my coaches were telling me to do. At the end of the day, I had to do it, because that's just how you are a part of a team. So even in my adulthood, I have my own family, I have my own wife and kids, but I work with my dad and mom. I don't always agree with my dad. Most of the time I disagree with my dad. But at the end of the day, he's still the leader of the business, so I still have to submit to his authority, because if I was the leader of the business, I would still want somebody to be able to back me up, even if they thought I was wrong. So if I think he's wrong, I'll take him to the side and say, hey, Dad, I think this is how we should do it, but hey, this is really your baby, and I'm here to support. In the same time, as a captain, of the team at Pitt, I was what do they say, an entrepreneur, or, when you're an entrepreneur within a, so you're a leader within an organization that you don't necessarily own 100%. And so there's a lot of ways that you have to mentally understand that, and that you have a certain level of authority, but you're still under another level of authority. And so with my teammates, there were guys who, wanted me to be captain. There might have been guys who didn't think I should have been captain. I can't operate based on that. I have to know what my job is. Mm-hmm. So and you look at our household, sometimes stuff that I want to do, my wife might not be on board. My daughter definitely sometimes is not on board. But I still have to operate within my role, because that's my role. there are certain things that are my responsibility. And if I don't show up, what happens to my team? My team doesn't perform well. My team doesn't have the vision. My team doesn't have the leadership that they need. And so, and that translates, in very tangible ways. Like if you're on the field and you're not doing your job, you literally lose the game. But if you're, even just in preparation, if you're setting a bad example, you lose the game before it even starts. And so it's the same thing. It's the same thing with family. You decide that you're having a bad day. You don't want to go to work. Guess what? Kids don't eat. But in the same way, if you're going through school and you're not preparing yourself and you have no vision, and then, like I said, you lose the game before you even start. And so to me, man, sports, to me, what was building in my heart the whole time I was going through Pitt was, God bless the guys who did 10 years in the NFL. That's amazing. That just wasn't my path. I had a certain level of talent that I was thankful for that, I utilized to get an MBA and to get school paid for. But I wasn't a 10-year NFL guy, and that's cool. Everybody has their lot in life. But what I did know was that God was impressing on my heart something about family first, because I did see a lot of identity problems in sports, to be frank. Not everyone, but a lot of times, and I'll just be blunt. Like if you don't have a solid identity in something substantial, you're gonna put it in whatever you can. And I think I saw a lot of that, in college sports. Mm-hmm. And that was something that I was turned off by. But what I was turned on by was how, the men that I respected who were really, really good at their job, man, they took it seriously. They were dedicated every day. And to me, it was just like, man, this is how we should be with our families, man. That's just the thing that was pressed on my heart throughout the 4 years. And so that's how I decided to treat it, was to take the same intensity and care and put it into my family, and then think about everything from that standpoint, business included, because at the end of the day, man, it'll be a beautiful thing when you guys have a brand and you guys have this podcast and then you have products and services that you have a stake in, and that will be a branch where other people can have an opportunity to be productive in life, but because of the work that you guys put in. And you can, expand that, and that thing can grow. And I think that is a beautiful vision. Working at PNC, that's great too. Everybody you have to be, there are seasons in which, hey, you're going to be a part of something. If you end up doing that for the rest of your life, that's cool too. But you're working on having your own brand equity, too. And so I think about it the same way, man, just from a family standpoint. And I think I'll try to make sure I answer your question, but that's how I saw the parallel between sports and how I think about life now. Yeah.
So I'd say, could you give us some advice? Because I know a lot of athletes have that identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
But how would you go about like making a plan or trying to create an identity outside of sports, like while you're in high school or college, and like prepare for that next step? Because you might not, like you said, everyone doesn't have the ability to be a professional NFL 10-year player.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do next. Yeah. And they're kind of just, because you see a lot of players, they have like mental health issues after. Yeah. And they didn't have any career planning. And then they took a major that they didn't really like or were focused in and couldn't really get a job out of. Mm-hmm. And so if you could just give some advice to that situation.
You guys, that's a great question, man. You guys are asking great questions. That was a burden on my heart going through Pitt, was seeing guys not take advantage of the opportunity that they had. Like I said, there are a lot of guys, maybe 10% of the guys in a Division I locker room are going to have a 10-year, $100 million NFL career. And that's a beautiful thing, but that's 10% of the guys. And so my advice to guys is just enjoy college football, like or whatever sport, for the folks that we're talking to. Enjoy that, give it your all, but just understand that it's not your whole life. It's just not your whole life. And don't waste an opportunity to utilize. Like, you can utilize that space that you're in for your own benefit as well. And I don't mean in like a selfish way. You just have to realize, like, if you're at a college and you're playing sports, understand that somebody has a plan for you. They have a plan for you, the coach or whoever recruited you or whomever. They have a good plan for you to be the best athlete that you can to help the team win, which is great. That's value that you bring to the sport, and that's kudos to you. So continue to develop that, but have a plan for yourself. Don't just walk through life thinking, and this is what you guys are doing. Don't just walk through life saying, okay, what's this person's plan for me? Let me follow that. What's their plan for me? Let me follow that. Now, if you decide in your mind that you think their plan for you is the best plan for you, then that's great. Then go all in. But if you've never thought about it, think about it. What plan do I want for myself? What if this doesn't work out? Do I have a plan? Have I ever thought about it? So where I would start with anyone going into a situation like that is just, man, think about thinking about having a plan for yourself. Think about the things that you want to do in your life, and don't get run over by a big system that you might not quite understand the system when you first get in. Over time, you'll start to see the rhythms and what's going on. When you first get in, please, think about a plan and what you want to do. It's crucial. I see, there are a lot of guys who, not getting into specifics, but yeah, they just get out of school and haven't really thought about, like, who am I outside of this? Because you can get in there and get consumed. As soon as you walk in, there's a whole plan. This is when you're going to class. This is when the games are. This is when the seasons are. You can literally walk into D1 Sports and turn your brain off. Excuse me, guys. You can literally walk in, turn your brain off, and then 4 years later, you'll be graduated. And then you'll wake up and be like, oh, I didn't really think about it. Everything was mapped out. I had my schedule, had my housing, had my, paycheck. Now I got the NFL. Now you might, NIL. Now you might got a lot more money than we did. That's another subject. But, so everything, you don't even have to think. But the job of a grown person, the job of an adult when you leave is to be able to set those plans for yourself and then follow them. So just understand that there's a skill set that you need as to be an adult that if you're not intentional, it will not be developed in your college years, because that plan is already set out for you. And so if you want to be, somebody who is, executing and doing something, substantial, or going after your dreams, living a loco lifestyle, man, you have to learn how to think about your own life and who you want to be. And so my advice is simply just think about it. Just think about it. Like, really, really think about 4 years when I graduate. Maybe NFL's a possibility. Awesome. But even after that, man, even after you have a $100 million career, who do you want to be then?
Because it's still the person after they retire.
Right. Is it all about the money? After the $100 million, you just want to sit in your house and order Uber Eats and go on vacation? Is that what you want? That's what you want, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it should be. I hope that you've thought about it. Look at Larry Fitzgerald. Amazing career, made a lot of money, but look at all the things he's doing in the community. He's thought about who he wants to be as a person in relation to the people who are around him. So that's what I would say.
So I really like what you said about, owning your development. Mm-hmm. And, like, development is self-executed and, sometimes sponsored by other groups, whether that's like a coach you might have in sports, a boss you might have at work, or, mm-hmm. Even like in your family business, and just, mm-hmm. Altogether the work that you try to progress. I want to ask, going from the financial industry into the transportation, mm-hmm. one, I think is awesome that you spoke about this a little bit earlier about, sports being coached by your parents, mm-hmm. Kind of that being like one of your first types of leadership and submitting to authority. Mm-hmm. What was it like for you to be able to then be able to sponsor your father's dream? Yeah. And kind of like that reversal of roles. Yeah. And being in a capacity where you could help him really pursue something that he wanted to do, and he wanted to, turn from a dream into a reality.
That's a very good question. And I think that how I kind of talked about, like, if you think about, what you want to do, and whomever's plan you're a part of at that moment, you might make a determination that I like where this is heading. And you might say, I really want to be a part of this and see where this goes. And I'm good with that right now. And so there are some entrepreneurial endeavors that I'm involved with, individually, for myself and my family. Real estate investing, we have just bought our first Section 8 property.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And a couple other things. But from a place at where I'm at right now, I saw what my dad was doing, and I just decided, just somewhere in my mind, I just decided that I liked where he was headed. And I decided that it was worth my time and effort to be all in on his vision. And that's I think that, there is a lot of, knock around, you being a part of somebody else's vision. I think it's okay. Again, it just goes back to you making a determination on, the path that you're on. Is that something that you've thought about, that you've considered, and is it intentional, or have you just fallen into it? I didn't fall into it when my dad was doing. I decided to make a leap from where I was at, and I decided this is a worthy endeavor, and I'm going to go all in on it. And man, just if I look at it from a selfish standpoint, the benefits to me are tremendous if we do this right. I stand to be second generation business owner of something that wasn't just built on, you guys are together, you're doing this together, so you're about partnership. So I'm partnered up with my dad, using his skills, his contacts, combining them with mine, and we can make something powerful for our whole family, and continue that on into the future. I think that that's a worthy endeavor. To who knows if it'll pan out that way, but I'm damn sure going to try. I'm gonna try to make it work out that way. So, remind me what the second part of your question was.
Oh, just being able to, like, your dad was able to sponsor and pour into your vision, and now it's time that you get to pour into his vision, and kind of like that reversal of roles, and just like how special that is.
Reversal of roles. That's great, man. Yeah, my dad. I watched him. We grew up in Wilkinsburg, where we're at right now, and I watched him go through a lot of things. We lived with my grandmother, who was sick for quite a while, working through those conditions, trying to support us. For a long time, our cousins lived with us. So he was supporting a lot of hungry kids in the household with the jobs that he had. The house that we ended up buying and living in, I watched him do all the flooring and the electrical just to build that house for us to live. He turned the attic into 2 bedrooms for me and my brother. So just watching him, and I'm not saying my dad was perfect, but nowadays as a grown man, I choose to look at some of the great things that he did, as a father, because it's not easy being a father. And so, yeah, man, and he was always serious about our education. And we didn't have the money to go to Shady Side, but that was something that he intentionally, like I said, not just accepting the vision that whatever society had for him. He said, I want my kids to go to a certain school. That was his prerogative. I didn't have anything to do with that. I was really young at the time, so I'm following his vision. And so I ended up in the FAME program and at Shady Side, and that was very beneficial to me. And he was extremely supportive of, my college career and any of the business endeavors that I wanted to do. And so as I'm trying to think about entrepreneurship and think about an entryway into that, you're looking all over the world. You're looking at guys, doing things and, on the internet, and guys doing things locally and amazing things that they're doing. But I just was like, what is my dad doing? What is he doing? It seems like he's onto something. If I want to learn entrepreneurship, I know it's not popular, but why not learn it from, my home base? And that's, I don't even got to pay for that mentorship. That's right there. That's tangible. That's accessible. And so it was just a win-win for us to partner together. I could learn a lot of the old school business tactics that he already had in him, and I was able to bring that whatever you want to call it, the MBA education into what he was doing, so we could round this thing out and make it and just make it go. And we saw really great growth over the last 2 years, and it's been really great. But those role reversals, man, it's really an honor to be a part of what my dad is doing. And I'm really trying to change the way I feel like it's part of my vision and mission from a life purpose and ministry standpoint, is to really influenced the way that people think about families, man. Like a lot of people now, for better or for worse, and I know family's not easy. There's a lot of trauma that's involved with family, but a lot of people, their intention is to get as far away from their family as possible, especially when bad things happen. And hey, I get that, you know, and I've experienced a little bit of that. But I just think that it's something that is really, 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 really worth the effort. Because when you think about anything, any kind of community change, society change, political change, like, hey, we want to bring people together. We want to change this community for the better. We want to treat these people better. We want to give people more opportunity. But what I see a lot of times in people who talk a big game about what they want to do for the world, within their own household, none of that is occurring. I think that that's off.
Yeah, if you can't do it on a small scale, how can you potentially expect to do it on a much larger scale?
If you can't take care of the things that are right in front of you, why should you be trusted with massive responsibility? So where there's strife between me and my dad, yeah, I do my best to work through it. You know, I hope when I'm in my 70s and 80s that my kids would want to spend time with me. So even if I don't feel like, man, I just want to be around my dad every day, I try to make an intentional effort. Like, what would I want in my later years, you know, and try to be intentional about that now. It's just where I'm at. So the role reversal thing it's definitely not easy, but it's something that it's just important to me, and I just feel like it's a part of my mission.
Can you tell us a little bit more how you learned to handle disagreements, maybe in your family business? Because I know like a lot of people, like they get like a little nervous around the money of that subject of money in the family business. Yeah. And also you were speaking of how your dad has like an old school business tactic as well. Mm-hmm. And then you have like an MBA and like a financial background. And so I know ego could be a big thing in family business as well. Yeah. So how did you learn to manage that?
Man, great question. You guys are diving deep. I don't know if I was ready for it. No. So it's just understanding where I'm at, man. Like, to be honest, like, you know, you're 28. You want to talk a big game. You know, first of all, the story that I tell about the business. A lot of times, you know, people, because the business is called Briggs Transportation. You know, we changed the LLC to D Briggs Transport, but it's Briggs on it. And so a lot of times people will see me and be like, "Oh, Dennis, you started your own business?" In that first year or two, I was tempted to be like, "Yeah, man, yeah, start my own business," you know. But it's just like, let's step back and be honest about what's really going on. My dad started the business, okay? With none of my, he didn't. It had nothing to do with me. He was a bus driver. Had a mentor. You know, he had a community forge. He put these things together by himself, you know, and with his own intuition, and decided, you know, I want to get into this industry. That within itself is something that I respect and admire. Because as you guys with your own business know, it's not easy to start. It's not easy to really get yourself moving on an idea. But that's what he did. And so I was at a place in my career where that's something that I wanted to do. You know, and I think it's easy to ignore, like, you know, you think you're going to go and follow like a Gary Vee or like a, you know, just some, you know, excellent business person and do what they did. But it's like, you know, there are people in our own lives who are doing amazing things that if we open our eyes, you could be like, wow, like, you're doing that. Like, that's amazing. Like, that's exactly what I've been trying to do. So, you know, my determination was like, you know, also understanding my own value. Now, because I see the value in what he did, doesn't make the value that I bring any less. It's just different. I went through, you know, a lot of years of studying and playing football to get the education that I have, so that I was able to bring that to the table and do what we're doing now. But now that we're in the inner workings of the business on a day-to-day, regardless of how you know, savvy I feel like I am, or, you know, how good I think my ideas are, I just go back to this, man. Like, what's the reality of the situation? It's still his business. I'm okay with that. You know, yes, there are things that I wish that we would do differently, but there are a lot of things that when I thought we should have did differently, and, you know, I ended up figuring out why he did it the way he did it. And so what I'm trying to do right now is take those lessons, take them in for myself, so that I can have them, so that I can be a more well-rounded leader when it's my time to because he's he's in his upper 60s. He's got a lot of energy. I don't know much longer he wants to go. That's up to him. But ideally, it's something that I would be, running, in the later years. So I just had to make a self-determination that I don't know everything, and that there are a lot of things that I help him out with, of course, but I don't know anything, and the more humble you can be about that, to always being willing to learn. Honestly, the better it's going to be for you, because you're going to be more well-rounded. Like I think that what you guys are doing is awesome. I've had ideas about doing content and whatnot, but you guys are actually doing it. Like, that's something that you got to look and be like, there's something there that is not to be envied, it's to be admired. And if you're humble enough, you can actually adopt some of it yourself, and so humility and like the pride will actually block you from becoming better at what you're doing, because you're not going to be open to all of the inputs that you could be. My goal is to be in a place where I'm getting the most inputs that I possibly can into myself, and I know that I'm just going to get better, off of that. But you can't be prideful about that. So yes, there are things that I've learned, like I tried to control in the business, but I've just just same thing with football, man. It's like, whatever the economy you're in, like, this is my job, this is my level of authority. I'm gonna go in there and execute on that every day. But I still have, like, it's the same thing with football. I still got my own plans, I still got my own stuff that I'm doing, and I still got my own family to think about. So I got, business ideas like the real estate, things like that, that I'm gonna continue to do that have nothing to do with my dad. And he would support me in that too, because he thought the same way. Yeah.
Kind of for myself and the audience included, I don't know a ton about the transportation business. Mm-hmm. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of what that's like?
Yeah.
And even, I guess, speaking to, you said 2 years ago is when the business started, so even just within the world, we've gone through a lot of interesting things in the last 2 years. Especially, I feel like an industry like transportation, where you're dependent on people being available and things like that. Kind of, if you could just lay out, just for like a dummies version about transportation.
Yeah. Super cool question, man. I'm still learning a lot about the industry. We play in a very specific niche. It's called pupil transportation, PUPIL. So we focus on school students, contractual. So it's B2G, business to government mainly, and B2B mainly. We do have a B2C segment. So B2G and business to government is when you're really primarily working with like a school district or a state government or federal government. B2B, primarily working with other businesses, like if you were selling something to Community Forge. And then B2C is probably the most well-known business to consumer, where you're marketing online products and services to individual clients. So where we play is in that kind of the B2G and B2B business mainly. B2C is probably 10% of what we do, where we have a few, we do take on just, private events and private transportation requests. But our bread and butter is our contracts with the schools. And so we have two main contracts right now, City of Pittsburgh and with Propel schools they're great because they are consistent. That's the main thing. That's what really makes it a great business, is that it's, school isn't going anywhere. It's year after year. It's a consistent thing. And so when you think about transportation businesses, there are, just like anything, there are a ton of segments. Just like, working at the bank, there are millions of segments of the bank. The main function is lending, but there are many ways to do lending. And same thing with transportation. You might be thinking about tractor trailers. You might be thinking about 18-wheelers. You might be thinking about cargo. But we are specifically a people transportation company. So we're a small player on the block. There are companies that have been doing this for 50 to 100 years, much larger companies, and we're definitely in that startup phase. We're definitely becoming a little bit more established, but I'm primarily concerned about improving our culture right now, because the first year was all about figuring out, can we actually do this? Can we get through a year, safely without any major, concerns, major problems? And we proved that we can get through a year. Now it's time to improve our brand, improve our culture, and improve our responsibility to the community. So a lot of the transportation, as far as working with people, it is about hiring and retention. And you have to have really thick skin because, I'm 28. A lot of the people that I manage are, much older than me. And so when they see me in the office, of course they think, this young guy doesn't know anything, been here much longer than them, I say whatever I want, do whatever I want. And you just got to stand on your own 2 feet and just, like I said, represent your culture well and have, very clear guidelines for, what you'll accept and what you won't accept. We don't accept, call-offs for no reason. We don't accept, any kind of substance abuse. We don't accept inappropriate behavior with the students. We don't accept people coming to work as if they don't want to work. But you can fall into accepting that just for the sake of getting through the day. But your brand and your culture is going to really suffer. And so it's not easy to keep people. People aren't just walking through the doors every single day. But we have, I think what makes one of my dad's specialties is that he's willing to, take a shot with people. And if there's 10 people that, we're not sure about, and we get started with all of them, but we might find out that 7 of them didn't work out, but we'll find really, really great. Three of them will be really, really great, be with us for years. And so I am more of the filtering part of that equation. He's more of the recruiting part of that. Mm-hmm. And I'm definitely more of the filtering part of that. So, again, we work well together on that front as well. But, yeah, it is tough. It's tough to keep people in the industry because you can go to a lot of places. But I think that all goes back to the culture. You want it to just be a place that people want to come to, that people can know that you're going to treat them right. If you're coming in here just doing your job, man, like we're not going to, if there's a question about your pay, or if there's a question about anything, I'm going to do what I can to make that right as fast as possible because the truth is I don't eat without your service. Right.
A symbiotic relationship, benefit from one another.
We're nothing without our people, so we want to treat them right, but we want our customers treated right, so our people have to act right. And there are people that I don't have to worry about, a day in my life, haven't had to worry about them since I've been there. And then there are people that you have to manage actively and meet with them, every 2 weeks or whatever, just to make sure that they're on track. And then there are people that you got to say, get out of the office and don't come back.
No, that's real.
Yep.
And I'm really glad that you detailed like all the realness of
mm-hmm.
business, like those 3 different layers. Mm-hmm. I was curious if you could speak to, you said your dad started with a party bus and now y'all got like a whole fleet mm-hmm. essentially now. Mm-hmm. What if you did use any of this, your financial background, working at the bank,
yeah.
What about that knowledge did you use or, help your father with in terms of scaling the business? Because yeah. I think as we know with any good business, in order to grow, you got to use somebody else's money.
Yeah.
And it's hard to scale because especially a lot of businesses in our community don't know how to scale their business.
Yeah.
And so they kind of just plateau and they're stuck in the same thing. They feel stuck for years.
Mm-hmm.
Or like even like how to get capital or to mm-hmm. get investment and things of that nature. If you can speak on that.
I love talking about this, man, because, man, you guys are great questions, man. But, yeah, interestingly enough, I worked in loan syndications, and so we were doing debt transactions. We were helping companies get loans, really large loans, and we were working with other banks to put the loans together. So a lot of the financial modeling I did was simply to answer the question. Like at the bank, I was just trying to figure out the question, can this company pay this loan back? That's what you're just trying to figure out. And then if it's like, yeah, they can pay it back, then you move on with the deal, or can we, there's a lot of questions that go into financial modeling, but I try to bring business down to like, what are we actually trying to accomplish? So at the bank, that's what you're trying to accomplish is just figure out, can you get your money back plus
risking everything, yeah.
Right. And so in the transportation business, it's not the same question, so when it comes to how did my skills transfer over, mainly it was how I thought about what we were doing. For me, and I learned to think very concretely at PNC about what we were trying to do. And so in transportation, it is, can we be, there's a request, can we do it? Do we have the people? And can we be where we need to be on time every day? And that is, there's a way to manage to manage that and to see that on paper, see it on a spreadsheet, organize it, and execute on it every single day. And that's just the heart of the operations. It's really just making sure that if you're supposed to leave the lot at 8 a.m., that somebody's here at 8 a.m. And if they're not, you have a backup plan and you execute on that plan as quickly as possible. Some days it's crazy because you might have 5 or 10 of those things happening at the same time. If something goes wrong, what are you going to do about it? Or are you going to respond to it? And so for me, it was really about, because it wasn't a lot of, I'll talk about the finance part first, but really as far as transferable skills, it was really about thinking very concretely about what we were doing and helping my dad to do that. My dad has more of a startup mindset where he's always thinking about expansion. I'm always thinking about execution. I'm always thinking about making sure that it happens the right way every single day. And so that was the main skill that I brought over from PNC. From a finance standpoint, in the bank, you learn a lot about organization, keeping things together, making sure that your deals are getting done on time, making sure that you're responding to things on time. So a lot of those organizational skills were just things that I had built, that I brought to the business. But when you talk about financing and capital and things like that, I'll just tell you guys, like, the best thing that we did as far as a finance standpoint in our business to help us to expand was to think about risk in a very real way. And we didn't take on we never had that in the business. We really had a no debt. We really had and still have a no debt philosophy. That doesn't work for everybody, but it worked for us. So the vehicles, even the first vehicle that my dad bought was a seller finance deal, which it does, you do have an obligation with seller finance that you have to pay back, but it's not a loan from the bank. So that was a relationship that he just said, hey, based off the relationship and the work, I'm going to make these payments, and he paid it off, but there was no debt involved. That was a handshake. When we got into, hey, can you do the basketball team? There were, we had to get 4 more vehicles, and this was before I came, but it was the same thing. Seller finance relationship. Hey, I'm gonna make these payments on these vehicles. This is the work that I'm gonna do. Can we do a deal? And that was an industry contact that he had for a long time. So it was a relationship within his circle that he was able to work out a deal with. When we started going bigger and we started getting more requests, it was, and I'm giving away all the sauce, but it was buying at the auction. But that was all cash. That was cash flow from the business. Mm-hmm. That was checks from, the work that we had already did. And that was cash flow into the business, and it stayed that way until this day. None of our vehicles that we have any financing on it. Same thing with our office building. That was we had a balloon payment at the end, but it was a seller finance deal where we made payments every month from the business cash flow, and then a lump sum payment at the end of the 8 months. And so everything was financed by the cash flow of the business, and to get it started, they were seller finance deals. And so, in my view, I want to run a business that continues to pay for itself and continues. I would like to finance myself. I mean, I want to have so much cash flow from the business that it's not a problem for us to go out and buy more assets or even buy real estate. Mm-hmm. Man, I would love to run a business with virtually zero risk. Because if something happens, you lose some contracts.
That cash flow is the most important thing.
You don't have a bunch of obligations and stress, and man, I'm not gonna make it through the month. You could breathe. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm giving any advice, if that's possible for you to finance your asset acquisition through work that you're already doing, establish some cash flow and use that cash flow to buy the things you need, I think that's the best way. That's my personal experience. That's my personal opinion from the little bit of entrepreneurial experience I have. Now, there are guys out there who have a lot more experience than me, who have figured out a way to use the capital markets to expand. And I think that there's a really smart way to do that. Because if you think about it, good debt versus bad debt, say you're buying a real estate property, yeah, the tenant could be paying for the property and then you get the cash flow on top. So it's not like you're coming out of pocket for that. But you still have the risk that, the tenant moves out or the tenant can't pay, and then you are on an obligation for that. And so I think that there is a smart way to take on debt. I would just say you know, that it should be something that you have really, really thought about. Don't expand just for the sake of expansion. Expand because you have an opportunity. If it's like if you're looking at your inbox and it's like you have a request, you know, let's just talk about transportation. If this is imaginary, but if I have a request, say, hey, this school district just lost all their busing for the year. They really need you guys. You know, they need 30 vehicles. There's 30 routes, and they need it in the next 5 months. That might be an appropriate situation to say, maybe we should take on, you know, maybe we should take on a line of credit. Let's go get these vehicles. Let's capture this opportunity, and then let's get back, you know, to pay these vehicles back off. Like, but there's a real reason for doing that. It's not just, man, I need to get access to capital. Man, I need to get these business credit cards up. Man, I just need to have, like, no.
Yeah, people just do that for no reason.
No.
Right.
Like, do you have opportunity?
Yeah.
Are you working hard? Do you have, or is there reasons? So like it's not a game. It's not just, you know, it's not, you know, some guy on YouTube told you to go expand your credit. Like, even if you
Doesn't
get
make sense for you.
Yeah,
if you get the credit,
if you get the
usually you can't pay it
100,000
back.
even you get the 100,000, it's like, now I got to spend it. It's like, do you even have this? So I really, I don't like noise, man. I would rather I try to, even my personal finance, I really try to think about less debt as possible. Again, because, you know, the focus isn't just, you know, like I said, the bottom up and the top down. It's not just, man, let me just accomplish all these things just to fulfill some void. It's like, no, like, I have a responsibility, and like, let me do the best I can with it. And part of that is making sure my people are in a good position. We got employees to think about. We got our families to think about. I want them in a position where there's going to be consistent work, where we're being responsible, and that's the main thing. Not just expansion. So that's how I think about the capital.
I think you also talk about like the importance of like tracking your finances and your taxes, because like I know they'll do the seller finance deal.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to show them like some type of history of your financials,
Yeah, cash flow.
because they're not just gonna be like, oh yeah, I just believe you're gonna pay me back.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that too as well?
Well, that would be a more appropriate question for my dad, because he's the one who did the deal. But
not his deal, just like in general, more like a general, not just that deal, like a general thing.
Well, to be honest, Kanan and Xavier, in my experience so far, and like PNC is a they've been going, I don't even know when they started, a long time. They've been a bank for a long time.
Yeah, like 18 or something.
Yeah. So there are business processes that they have mastered. There are systems that have been perfected and thought about over years and years, and have been stewarded by great leaders over time. And so when they do deals, they have all kinds of history and all kinds of things to show and ways to compete. In the entrepreneurship world,
Building that.
believe it or not, yeah, you're building that. But sometimes it is. Sometimes with a seller finance deal in entrepreneurship, yeah, you're gonna have to be smart about like having any legalities that are required. But just remember this: if two guys sit down and say this is what we're going to do, and they sign their name on a napkin, and the other guy signs it, that's an agreement within itself. So really, any deal is really what two parties agree to. And so, in seller finance deals, sometimes if you've proven yourself, like a lot of the sales is you. Like if you are viewed as somebody who is responsible, who does what they say they're going to do, and then you back that up with a plan that's not out of this world, that's crazy, that makes sense. Like if you guys said, hey, you know, like, I don't know, you know, with this podcast, we want to buy our own equipment. These, you know, you talk about the history, like these are the podcasts that we've done, you know, like, you know, we can pay it based off of our salaries from our other job or whatever, you know. Yeah, there might be a conversation, okay, send me the documents, but somebody could shake your hand and say, I trust you. Yeah, let's do it. And it's just as simple as that. I mean, really, because you've already backed up and shown that these things that you're saying are reasonable. And so a lot of times that's where, yeah, it's the trust, it's the person to person, the interpersonal, and that's a lot of the things that I did learn from my dad. You know, I brought a lot of computer, you know, knowledge and organization and things like that, but man, there's just things that these guys do, you know, they just, the way they make deals, that I just wasn't exposed to it, and so I've seen a lot of that with him. just to work in his relationships and just following up on his word. And it's been harder now that we're bigger, so I help him to keep in line with that. It's easy when you're smaller to remember what you said and follow it up, but a little bit harder that we're bigger now. But those are a lot of things that I learned from him. So you can make a seller finance deal work if somebody trusts you. Yeah, if that makes sense.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
And I do like that approach to, and even like you said, like with your dad's longevity in the business, being able to, he has those relationships already, you know.
Yeah.
Use the resources you have, you know. You don't always have to go to like the big bank or the big players on the block. Like the people that you shake hands with day to day, that you're rubbing elbows with, you know.
Yep.
Being able to maintain those healthy and positive relationships could be, like we spoke about before, being mutually beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say one more thing about that, just to round out this discussion on the capital. I won't go into the details because my dad, he can share whatever he would like to, but I will say that there were times in the business where we said that we just wanted to have access to capital just in case. And what I'll say is that even when you're doing well in business, that's not always an easy thing, especially with traditional lending, because a lot of it goes back to, your personal financial history. And, for those who are just thinking about these concepts in business, just understand that, like, how you, do your personal finances, how you live your life, all of that, especially when you're looking for opportunity, all of that comes back up. It all comes back up. Even if you're in a business, banker might be looking at, okay, let's go back to your teenage years and, loans that you had, what. So all of that stuff comes into play, and you might be 20 years down the line trying to, establish a line of credit for a business, and then all of a sudden you have to remember all the stuff that happened back when you were younger. And so I just want to call that out that, we did eventually get access to capital, but there were a lot of things that we had to work through from a personal family standpoint to work out just to get an opportunity. And when I'm talking, the reason why I didn't speak on this, because it's like, it wasn't even a substantial. It was really just us saying, man, we should have some access to capital.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But our cash flow was much bigger than what we were even asking for. But that didn't matter to the bank. It wasn't just a business cash flow. They were also looking at, some personal stuff as well. So I just think that even more influences my philosophy of, like, hey, as little risk as possible until it makes sense to take the risk.
Yeah, definitely control risk. You don't want to just make it any risk.
Absolutely.
Especially as like social media makes everyone think they should have $100,000 of business credit right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just apply. You'll get a credit card on Amex,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'll do a couple things, and you'll be able to cash it out.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean you just cash it out?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And then
Yep.
it's hard to stay focused. Like, and then that's what probably like our last question is.
Mm-hmm.
We're surrounded, especially like kids from like 16 to 21. Like they're so surrounded by everyone saying like, "Oh, this is the way you get rich. This is the way you get rich. This is the way you get rich." So then you kind of just hop. And you were talking about earlier in the podcast to stay focused. It's like, how do you like suggest like just stay focused?
Specifically in terms of business?
Yeah, business and life.
Yeah.
That's such a good question, man. And it really.
And even if, that's $2,000, how did you yourself,
Yeah.
Because
Because there are a lot of levels in which you could talk about that, man. But what I'll say is that, first of all, contentment, man. Like, contentment will help you avoid a lot of distractions. Like, there are a lot of women in the world, but I have one that I'm going to focus on in this mind.
And that's another hard thing for people to do because
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing. Yeah, still, yeah.
You're right. I have one that if I give my energy and effort to this one, everything that I ever wanted is going to be fine. But my job is to focus on this one. That's not me saying only focus on one business idea, because sometimes you got to, try some things and what have you. But what I am saying is that don't just do stuff because you see other people doing stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There's no win in that. There's no win in trying to keep up with the Joneses. Trying to buy the house at 30 because your other friend bought the house at 30. No, it's cool, dude. Hey, trying to get married, trying to have a baby at 35 because your friend is, there is no joy in that. There is joy in saying, what have I been assigned to in life? What is my skill set? What are my advantages? My advantage was I had a dad who already started a business. Not everybody has that. I capitalized on that.
You gotta be resourceful.
That was my advantage. Some people have other advantages. Some people are extremely gifted, at investment. Even though I was in investment banking, I wasn't the best, banker. Some people are gonna use that talent and continue to develop it and take it all the way into a very fruitful career. Some people have a gift for communication and content and a friend group, and they're able to utilize those resources to make it happen. There's only one Jeff Bezos. There's only one Elon Musk. I dang sure don't know how to get people on Mars, but he does. So that's what he's gonna do, because that's the talent that he has. So just realizing that we're all different, we're all individuals, and your outlook on life is not based on what other people have accomplished, and you have to stay focused on what where am I at, like location. I'm in Pittsburgh. I was a part of Fame. I have this opportunity at PNC, and I can utilize these skills to continue to build something more valuable and more valuable and more valuable. But I want to stay on track, and that might look like 6, 7 different activities. It might look like one, but the principle underneath that is focusing on what is my advantage. What am I good at? What skills have I developed? I ain't gonna be no singer. What I'm saying? I just don't have it. So to try to say, yeah, I'm gonna make $1 million in the music industry is just goofy, and so but not pronounced of an example, but that's what you see. You see people, oh yeah, I'm gonna go drop shit, oh yeah, I'm gonna go trade options, just cause, but is that where your gift is? Is that where you're skilled at? Is there any, or even if you're gonna do it, are you gonna really go develop that, or is it just like you just gonna go through? And I made that mistake. So,
because it gets hard.
Yeah.
Like, when it gets hard, it's usually like people quit, but it's that persistence that you were talking about.
Right. So that makes sense, man. It's really contentment, focusing on what you are, not even what you're gifted at, but where your advantages are, where you've been building at, and trying to really just think intentionally about, what the opportunities that I have, how can I really maximize them?
Oh, yeah. And kind of just to close us out here, what's next for Dennis Briggs? What's next for Briggs Transportation? Anything that you want to shout out?
Yeah. Thanks, man. So we want to be out for Dennis Briggs. I want to build a multi-generational family on mission. So I want to think about my family in terms of generations, starting with my dad and us and what we're doing in business. I want to have more children and give them the opportunity to be a part of a vision that I've set. And if they have a vision that makes more sense for them, God bless them, I'm going to support them. But I do think that it would be beautiful to build a family team and to have businesses that are a part of that we can all participate in. And so that's for me. For Briggs Transportation, man, we want to be a long-time partner in the community that we're in. We want to be a responsible part of the community. We want to have a great culture, and we want to provide opportunity for the community and good service. And that's worth a lot of time and effort. Shouts out, man. I just want to shout out the people who've just been a big part of who I am today, my family, and certainly all of those folks who have supported me, especially a place like Fame. There are a lot of key moments in life that, without certain things happening, you could just see how your path could have been a lot different. And Fame and what occurred there was developed in me a real desire just for, like you said, mentioned very graciously, excellence, just to be the best at what you're doing and just try to be the best at it. So I'm going to be in the community, focused on building a Briggs Transportation. I'm going to be continuing to buy real estate. My Section 8 is in Birmingham, Alabama. I like that market. I'm going to be buying more properties out there, most likely. Just buying more properties in general. I kind of think about myself as the property and car guy. Like we just got cars and property, and we try to maximize the value on those. And other than that, man, no big plans. I'm taking it day to day. Elder at my church, I'm really plugged into that. Over at Allegheny Center Alliance Church, and we're just gonna be taking it one day at a time. My son's gonna be coming soon, so I'm gonna have him in the gym before he gets out the room. And we're gonna be having a lot of fun with that. But building my family, building our business, man, is where I'm at, and just spreading the gospel, man. Just keeping God first. So, yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes,
well, y'all, hopefully y'all should have learned something. I know that, Dennis, you covered a lot of interesting aspects, from family business to, developing that personal journey, to even just staying grounded in where you're at, and somebody who really gave real boots on the ground advice about life and being young and developing, not some clickbait video on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, but somebody who's really been through it from the ground up and who's continuously building. We really appreciate you for coming on the podcast, man, making the time for us.
Thanks for coming on.
Really awesome. This is awesome, man. I'm really thankful. You see podcasts and stuff, you'd be like, man, I want to get on a podcast. So just the fact, that's what I'm talking about, man. Like it's not out there, it's all here, man. So when you guys hit me up, man, I appreciate you guys being flexible in the time and stuff, man. It's an honor to see what you guys are doing and to be a part of it. So
no, it's an honor to be able to have you on here, and hopefully we can have you on again in the future. And things are doubled, tripled, quadrupled.
Yeah, we definitely want to get you and your dad on the podcast.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's gonna be crazy. We might have to prep for that. Yeah.
But Loco Fam, we're out.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Awesome,
Live Loco.
Man. Yes, sir.
Sir.